Welcome back to On Air with Lupton. I am your host, James Lupton. Today's guest is musician Paul Hardcastle. Paul is best known for his songs Rainforest and 19, which was a UK number one for 5 weeks, which kept Duran Duran A View to Kill off at the top spot, which for a James Bond theme song was unheard of. Paul went on to write a theme song for Top of the Pops and is still producing music now 40 years later. In this podcast, we speak about Paul's upbringing, touring as a child, his love for Chelsea Football Club, and now being able to work in music with his children. Paul recently released his autobiography, The Hard Way. It's available in all bookstores and on Amazon now. Please go out and purchase it. I hope you enjoy the listen. Please subscribe and rate the channel. It's greatly appreciated. And now for the interview. Recently released your autobiography, The Hard Way. Talk to me about the process of writing the book. You never really wanted to do it, but you did it and you're glad you did.
Yeah, as I was saying, it was my girlfriend that really pushed me into it. Her name was Francesca, and she was a really lovely woman who just wanted to see me have the best. And she said, "You'll really like doing it." I said, "I won't." And in the end, I had to say, "You was right," And yeah, if it hadn't have been for her, I doubt if I'd have done it. But then also meeting Paul Zanon was a big, big help. I said to him at the time, I said, it reminds me of when I first met Simon Fuller. You either click with someone really quickly or you don't, and it was like this Simon Fuller sort of thing. And first time I met Paul, we had a great time. And I started then looking forward to him coming over and going through it all and stuff. It was a good experience, to be honest with you.
What's it like
Um,
to delve back into your life stories and probably go over things that you probably forgot about as well?
Most probably, yeah. It was great. I mean, some of the stuff in there obviously is quite funny. It's quite weird. Getting shot at in Dallas, deciding to be a crazy guy that eats skunk. Didn't know what it was really, and everyone's telling me, oh, blah blah blah. And because I hate smoking, I used to smoke, and the thing of smoke, so I just ate some, put it in my beer and stuff. And the thing was, that was one of my most important interviews to do, called the Gavin. Yeah, they'll get to know what really happened to me, because my mate, who was my pretend manager at the time, he sort of jumped in really quick and he said that I had this fever and I shouldn't be drinking on the antibiotics and things. I don't know what happened, mate. I wouldn't advise that. I always thought that was sort of like quite, everyone from the 70s all did all this shit and stuff. And so I'm thinking it can't hurt, but I tell you what, that is some powerful stuff. I mean, reminded me of when they put you to sleep when you have an operation, you know. And I'm halfway through the bloody interview, and all of a sudden he just went, "And so pard you, boy." And I looked at him like that, and I just went, "Oh my good God, I'm in trouble now." But they're good guys. There was the Zimmerman brothers, and I'm still friends with one of their wives on Facebook. So I'll give her a little hint before it comes out.
I mean, it's one of the great stories in there, and people be listening to this thinking, "What is this?" But honestly, they've got to go out and get the book. It really is. I mean, that is one of the funny tales in there. But even other stories, thing from you love your motorbikes, you even having accidents on them, but still loving those motorbikes. And I think through the book, you could tell when you love something, you love it deeply, no matter what it is.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's my ADHD or whatever you want to call it. Um, I was just doing the video for Francesca's funeral. Putting all the stuff together and so that people could sort of watch 15 minutes of her life and all that. And I did that, and I started running out of time. And 2 days before the funeral, I was up most of it, trying to finish it all off. That is me. I mean, once I get into making an album, or I'm doing this or I'm doing that, I do. You're right. I do go head first, and my son calls me the heat-seeking missile. That's it. I'm just heading that way. But I suppose if you really want to achieve stuff, you have to have a certain amount of that, because otherwise you don't do it, do you? It's one of those things. You either love it or you don't do it. I don't do anything I don't love. because I won't do it properly. I'll do it, if it's a stupid job like, I don't know, taking the rubbish and all that sort of stuff. I'll do it. I don't like doing it, but it's something that has to be done. Whereas if you said to me, go on an accountancy course or something, or a speed awareness course, I don't think I could sit through 3 hours of that. Someone telling me, because I've gone over it 3 mile an hour, that it's going to make too much difference. 10 mile an hour maybe, but you get nicked for fucking doing. Oh, I swore there. Sorry. You
That's
get
all right.
nicked for doing 3 minutes, 3 miles an hour over, and I just really don't believe that that makes any difference. 3 miles an hour, and cars basically aren't like what they used to be. They can stop a lot quicker and stuff. We just still in the old ages, really. I mean, look at us now. We got how many people overcrowded in the prisons? All this stuff, and I spoke to a couple of friends of mine. One's lawyer, one's a superintendent in the old bill, and my brother-in-law served in the Met for 35 years, and they're all just saying that the whole justice system in England is absolutely crumbling to pieces. Letting people out early to keep people in that have done less of a crime. They're all just can't believe it. But yeah, there we go. That's life again as well.
That's it. Do you think the fact that you do throw yourself in head first and really get into it, do you think that really plays a big part in your success?
In the music side, yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I think where look, I don't want to come across as flash or anything, right? But everyone says that they'll buy an album of mine without even listening to it because I don't put fillers in it. So I wouldn't just, that's why pirating started and all that, because someone that you could only get a CD with maybe 2 tracks on it that were good and all that. Um, and I've never done that, and that's why I've kept all these fans for like 40 years. I mean, this year, well, around now, Rainforest, one of the tracks which was a big hit for me, is 40 years old, and people sort of still, talk to me about that as though it was yesterday, and I've done what, 30, I can't remember how many albums, 37, I think. And I can't say that I've ever put anything out that was basically just chucked out to fill it. The only track that I don't listen to, I wouldn't listen to anymore, and that's Just for Money, which was with Bob Hoskins. Now, that was only because really it was a mishmash of everyone's ideas, because 19 was so big. Everyone was saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You should do this. You should do that." And in the end, my head was just like I don't know. Don't get me wrong. If you watch it on the video, it's great. But as a record to just listen to, it's not. But having Bob Hoskins and Sir Laurence Olivier in it and Edo Ross, that was fantastic. And so yeah, it works. It works great as long as you're watching the video. And Hoskins is the star. He was just so good in it. It's Yeah, I was lucky to work with him. Really, it was these people. So Laurence Olivier, I think it's the first time he'd ever been on a record. But you're right. No, exactly what you're saying. I do it properly. Otherwise, I just think if you're not going to do it properly, don't bother doing it. Get someone else to do it, or whatever.
No, absolutely. Paul, you mentioned a name a moment ago, and that was Simon Fuller. This is a man who I would say changed your career and changed your life, maybe. Talk to me about Simon.
In all honesty, we both changed each other's, because what happened was he was working as he was actually working for Chrysalis Music, which is a publishing company, and that was his job. So he had not been a manager at all. I was still green behind the ears, in the music sort of business. But to cut a long story short, he had a record out, and he had just signed the writers of Madonna. And Madonna basically had like a virgin out. In fact, I knocked Madonna off the top of the 12-inch sales chart with this Rainforest track. That's how Fuller got in touch with me, because it was his writers that had wrote that song. He's like, "Who's this little sod that's just come along and nicked my place?" And he didn't know of me. Of course, I didn't know of him. We all knew Madonna, but it was like he said, "Oh, you're the guy that's knocked my record off." when I went into Chrysalis to see him, and I said, sorry about that, Um, and we got on absolutely fantastically, me and Simon. He asked me if I wanted to come back. Well, you'd have seen this, read this in the book, but he asked me if I wanted to come back and meet the hierarchy. Just said, um, if you've got anything else you're working on. And I said, yeah, I'll bring it in. But I didn't tell him what it was because I was still myself thinking, what are people going to think about this? Anyway, I took it in. It got played at Chrysalis, and Simon was quite cool. Lots of people were just frowning and sort of thinking, what the hell is this about? So anyway, to cut long story short, they all said, thanks very much, blah, blah, blah. And I knew I wasn't going to hear from them again. And Simon stayed behind, and he just said, look, they don't get this. He said, I fancy having a change. He said, if I left this job, would you let me become your manager? And I still remember the exact words. I said, what does a manager do? He said, takes all the shit for you most of the time. I said, all right, then let's do it. And we did. And what, 6, 7 weeks later, we was #1 in 13 different countries. And it just went like that. That was the whole thing. Didn't have a contract, anything at all. It was just on trust. He became my best man, my daughter's godfather. And we became really great mates. And that was the thing that I liked about it, having someone as a friend as well. Because some managers are just like, they just they'll rip you off as quick as a rat up a drain pipe.
Absolutely. How important is that trust? Because I can imagine a lot of vultures circling around in any industry. So how important is it to have somebody like Simon by your side who he took a gamble on you, you took a gamble on him, and it worked out really well?
Correct. Yeah, that was the great story of it. It was really important. Although, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have even known if someone was ripping me off or anything, because I hadn't had a manager. I'd just been making records at home. I'd got to a certain level in club level where I was doing pretty well in the clubs. And my stuff was sort of getting played, and it was doing well in the disco charts and stuff. But this was the next big level up. And people were saying to me, oh, don't sign to him, he doesn't know what he's doing, and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, but I like the guy and I trust him, and I would rather have that than someone that knows everything, but sort of like knows how to rip you off as well. I wasn't even thinking about being ripped off. I wasn't even thinking about a manager. It just so happened that he put it to me that day, and I just happened to go, yeah, why not? I'm not signed to anyone. Let's just do it. Yes, go for it. So, and he did take the crap for me. I mean, I was terrible first of all. I didn't really have a clue. I'd get a new demo on a cassette, and I'd say to him to get it to the record company. If they hadn't got back to me the next day, I was on the phone to him saying, why haven't they got? He says, and that's how much I knew about the music industry. But I made him go grey before his time. But he understood why. He just knew that I wanted to sort of like do more sort of stuff to get more records out and stuff like that. He could see that I wanted to move on, so he embraced it a little bit. Well, a little bit. Not after about the fourth call in one day. Have you heard back yet? Have you heard? It's terrible. But you learn. You learn. I mean, I know it all now. Not it all, but I know a hell of a lot. I know I could do my own record deal, with a contract and stuff. And I've always enjoyed that sort of side of it, just seeing it, because obviously Simon was doing it, and I was in the meetings with some of his stuff. And yeah, I sort of learned a lot about Simon. He's a very clever guy. He's got no, he's completely different to Simon Cowell. He likes to stay out of the limelight. If you ever look at any video of him, sort of when he got a star on that, what's it called? Something's theatre show, isn't it? The Chinese place in LA where you get a star after your name, after like all the big pop movie stars and all that. And he almost looked embarrassed to get it. That's how he is. He's like, listen, this is all you guys that have done it, not me. So that's the difference between him and Cal. Cal was okay. I've got no problem with Cal. I obviously produced Sunita, and he was with Sunita at the time, and he liked what I did. So yeah, I got no gripe with him. But they are different people. And Simon likes his life, and he likes to be able to take his kids out and not get hassled and stuff. And that is important. I mean, I'll tell you, that's one thing that I wasn't ready for, I don't think. One minute, I'm Paul, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting there with my dad watching news at 10, and all of a sudden my picture comes up, and it's all about Vietnam War and then how I've made the record about it. And I was like, oh my God. And the next day, my next door neighbor asked me for my autograph. That is strange. I had I had it for about, I'd say about 4 years, and then I really didn't I didn't like it that much, and I never got into music to try. I never wanted to be a pop star. Some people just want to be that. Go on top of the pops or be in photo shoots, wear what they want, or all that. I was interested more in what's in the grooves, and that is something I think that's helped me stay where I am for so long. I mean, it's frightening how long now it is. Rainforest, 40 years. God, that's terrible. I wish I'd have remembered that.
How big was that moment? Rainforest, like you say, knocked off Madonna like a virgin off the number one spot out in America. Um, was that your first sort of pinch me moment or I've made it moment?
Um, well, I'd had two records in England that basically stopped at 41 in the pop chart, and that was sort of doing it through like my own label. There was a guy called Steve Walsh. I don't know if you remember him, the DJ. Me and him started up a label, and I called it Total Control, and it had a picture of a guy with two fingers like in both ears, and it meant basically I'm not listening to anyone anymore, because listening to people didn't do me very good, to be honest with you. This guy, one guy, Morgan Khan, he had Street Sounds. He said, he actually said it was like, he said it was dog shit, Rainforest, right? That's the sort of bloke he was, it's just like, it's dog shit, man. And then all of a sudden he's getting people to ring me up asking if I can let him license the track for his album. And I just said, FO. But that's me. Go the whole hog. You say you want to say that, then fine. You don't need it, do you? So if he'd have just said, I don't like it, it's not for us, I don't think, and then said, hey, actually, do you know what? It's done well. We'll put it on the album. Do you mind? I'd have gone all right. But for someone to say to you it's dog shit, I just thought, okay, fine. I said, you don't want dog shit on your label, Morgan, do you? Don't get me wrong, I could still walk into a bar or something and just still have a sort of a few slide digs with each other, and still be friendly and stuff like that. It's just people make not allegations, but they make silly comments just to try and be a bit clever. And yeah, I just say, I don't know, record boss, another one that gets it all wrong. Oh dear, it's funny, but yeah, it doesn't bother me at all.
Talked about we mentioned Simon Fuller, we went into Chrysalis and you played this song for them, and only Simon wanted to take a punt on it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that song was 19, which obviously went on to be probably your biggest record, UK number one for 5 weeks, and it held off Duran Duran and View to Kill, which was a James Bond theme song as well, which is massive. Um,
Yes,
Talk to me
that
about
was
that song and what that done for you.
Rainforest had already started me off being, being sort of getting getting somewhere a bit from America. But 19 obviously was a massive game changer, to sell that amount of records, like 4.5 million singles was a lot to sell. And it also gave me the chance to sort of like produce other people. I started then getting asked to write theme tunes, which I did. I think I had 5 on in a week at a certain stage. There was the Late Late Breakfast Show, Top of the Pops, Saturday Night Live, Wildlife on One, Watchdog. And I enjoyed doing all them. So that gave me this whole thing, Paul Hardcastle. Then I got to remix every single record under the sun because everyone sort of wanted a bit of my sound. It's like anything. If you're the golden boy at the time, everyone wants a bit of it. So that was great. And then I went on to sort of like work with D Train, which really was a buzz for me because they made the record that I thought records should sound in the 80s. You're the one for me. I'd hear that in the club and I was just like, whoa. And I remember saying to Simon, I said, I don't want to do the remixes anymore. So I'm getting a bit fed up with them now. He said, there's just one that you might. I said, no, no, honestly, I don't. I mean, I was offered the Pet Shop Boys before they had West End Girls and stuff, but it wasn't up my street, if I'm being honest with you. And I wouldn't do nothing that wasn't up my street because I think you could maybe, I wouldn't have done it as good as I could do something that I was really into, put it that way. And I said to him, no, no, I don't want to do anything anymore. I said, I need a break from remixing. He went, can I tell you the name of it? I went, oh, go on, hurry. He went, D Train. I went, yes. That was it. And to make it a hit, because it wasn't a hit in England before. It was a club hit, but it wasn't a pop hit. And I remember Simon saying to me, have you guess what? I said, what? He said, you got Top of the Pops next week. And I'd never been on Top of the Pops because I wouldn't go on there and do anything with 19 because I think it would look stupid. And the video said it all. And that's how I did it. And that was one of the reasons how we stopped Duran Duran, because I kept remixing the record every week. And every week it would have a different video and stuff. And it was changed enough that people would buy it. You've got to remember that I'm sort of someone that's just come along, and you've got most probably the biggest band in the world, Duran Duran, with the biggest film being released and the machinery behind that. And that was one of the very first records that didn't make it to number one as a James Bond theme. My fault. Sorry, Simon. I think I remember him saying once on an interview, they said, "Oh, it never got to," and he went, "Yeah, well, he keeps remixing his record, doesn't he?" Hey, I wasn't the biggest band in the world at the time. I wasn't even known. So there you go. That was the story of that.
Whose idea was it to keep remix it? Because it's clearly very clever and it worked.
Mine. They would tell me. So you'd get a thing called a midweek, and it would tell you roughly where you were in the chart. And there was a guy called Ken Grumbaum. He was the other guy that stayed behind with Simon. And he was sort of the head of marketing in Christmas. And he went, this is either going to be the biggest flop ever, or it's going to be a massive, massive hit. And so we just went, well, let's go for it. And luckily, touch wood, it was that. I mean, being told you're number one when you just got off an aeroplane coming back from doing Razzmatazz. And the guy sort of, because we didn't have mobiles, and he goes over to the phone box. I remember in Heathrow, and I was watching him, and all of a sudden he's looked over at me and he smiled and he just went, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm number one in my own country. Wow, that was something else. And I was glad, my mum got to see it before she died, and my dad did, and things like that are, they're really important, I'd say. So yeah, that was a big thing, really, for me. And yeah, I just count myself lucky that I've had a really good innings in life. And like it says in the book, if it was to all end tomorrow, I wouldn't feel that I'd been ripped off. Some people live to 90 or whatever, but they live to 90, they won't have had a half or a quarter of what I've been through, and it's been a great ride to now. So that's why I'm like I am. I'm very gracious about it. I'm always praising my fans, because my career, when I changed it, I said I had enough of being doors knocked on and all that sort of stuff, and it becomes uncomfortable after a while. But you can't change your face, really. I remember one time going to Wembley to see Michael Jackson, and I was in the queue, and I had glasses on and a bit of scarf or whatever, and this guy came up to me, went, Oi, Hardcastle, if you're trying to go in incognito, you're going to have to fucking do better than that. I thought, oh dear. But I went back to the rainforest type of stuff that I did, and all of a sudden, bang! It just went back off again. But I was better at doing it than I am now. Yeah, so I was lucky because I suppose what I was doing more sophisticated rainforests, if that makes any sense. It might not, but it had what I was doing before the pop thing. I mean, I had what, 5 or 6 pop hits. I even did the commentators, which I owned up to. You know, the Rory Bremner one about the cricket.
Yeah.
And it was funny because everyone was always saying to me, "What do you think about this? You know, this parody of yours and all that." And the record company said to me not to do it, but I thought it was quite funny. Simon said, "If you want to do it, you should do it and not worry about people." And I said, "You know what? If I can't take the piss out myself, right, then what have I become?" So I did it. I did it. I did it under a different name for a while, just to keep the. I think it was produced by Frank Hitachi. that was my name at the time. Um, and then after a while, I told people, "Ah, it was you." Oh, okay. So yeah, I understand what they were saying a bit. You know, you just made this really heavy statement and stuff. But then that doesn't mean to say that I have to be Mr. Doomsday all the time, does it? You know? And so I did it, and it was good meeting Rory Bremner. I didn't understand the cricket really, but it's just the way he's saying it, you know. There's a bit where he says something, and he's supposed to say, and he was not he was supposed to say he's 19. He goes, he was 8. It's just he's a very funny guy, Rory, isn't he? You know, he's very good. So um, yeah, so I didn't take myself seriously. I never have done. I've never really taken myself too seriously, and I think that's one of the things I suppose that people enjoy about speaking to me is that I'm not this sort of bod that's come out of college, that's going to tell you, well, I didn't use the C diminished seventh after the augmented ninth because it should have had a follow on chord. Shut up. If it sounds any good, right, use it. And what would they have said if I'd have said to them, "Oh, well, tell me about how I should have done 19 then? Should it have gone hun, 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 hun backwards or no, no, or whatever? Should it have been about, I don't know, the Spanish Inquisition? There's music's music. And I'm a big Floyd fan, and they put loads of stuff in their records, don't they? I remember Dave Gilmour had a guitar and there was a dog singing along to it. I love all that sort of stuff. For me, that's interesting. And so yeah, for one of the BBC Wildlife on One programs, um, people really don't know what they want when they ask you to do something music wise. So normally do the opposite. But I thought, well, I'll take in what they want and I'm going to try something myself. And so what I did, I'd been given the BBC wildlife library, like all the sounds and stuff. And I made this track out of just animal sounds. And I used like a frog burping for a bass drum. It's like, burp, burp, that sort of thing. And some tropical birds that sounded like sort of like a human voice near enough. And I said, "Oh, by the way," as I was leaving, I said, "Oh, by the way," they said, "Well, yeah, we like that." I said, "Oh, by the way, I just brought something along. Just I was just going to show you, blah blah blah." I said, "Oh, go on then." I played it. They went, "Fucking no, that's what we want. That's the one." So they took that instead of the other side. So that taught me a lot of lessons about people and adverts and things like that because I was interested in doing it all. But it became a little bit tiresome when someone would say, "Do this," and then you do it, and they say, "Well, can it just be a bit more like that?" "Yeah." "Can we get some more effects in it?" "Of course." "Yeah." Blah blah blah. By the time you've done 4 lots of effects, they're like, "Oh, there's a lot of effects on it, isn't there?" Holiday, that was another one I did. I remember that one with Jill Dando. Um, yeah, that was on for about 6 or 7 years. That was, but they wanted to change the music, and they wanted to change everything, all about the program because of Jill. And I understood that why, poor woman gets bloody shot. Lovely woman as well. There you go. There's life.
Obviously, you would never sort of changed who you are, and you always trusted your gut. You always went with what you wanted to do with your music and your work, and it obviously worked. You know, you are where you are now. You've had the career you've had. And in terms of, for example, Rainforest, if I remember rightly, this song influenced Will Smith, and obviously Will Smith went on to have a great musical career and acting career, and you know, is a major household name now. Does
Yeah.
that give you a bit of pride to know that it's influenced someone like that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I met Will out in when he was it was Will Smith and the what was his Jazzy.
Definitely Jeff.
That's it, Jazzy Jeff. And I met them in Holland, and they had a record out and stuff. And I said, "Oh, how you doing?" Blah blah. And someone said, "Oh, it's just Paul Hardcastle." And it, you the Rainforest man? That was Will Smith. I said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, man, that thing's dope, man. I love the tune. Blah, blah, blah. I said, "Oh, thanks very much." And then all of a sudden, he goes on to be like this huge, huge megastar. Now he would remember me, I think, because we did actually get on very, very well, having a chat and stuff. He would still remember Rainforest, yeah. But yeah, no, a very nice guy at the time, and I'm pleased he'd done what he'd done because he's a nice guy and he's very good at his job. That's another thing, he's a great actor.
No, absolutely. I want to talk about a point in your career and just ask you what that meant to you in that day. So I want to go back to Bond Street, HMV, and I think your first signing event. What was that like?
Wow, that was crazy. I remember, well, Chrysalis was over the road from it. It was Stratford Place, Chrysalis. And they said, "Oh, look, we got some signings for you to do across at HMV." And I said, "Oh, okay, fine." And when I walked in there, every single rack was full up with just 19s. And I think I signed. I actually stayed extra. I think I was supposed to be there for an hour, and we had done about 500, and I think I stayed till we had done about 800. And I did say, I said, "Look, I don't mind coming back another time or whatever and stuff like that." And then what I did as well, I did some. They sent them to my house. They sent about 8 boxes to my house, and then collected them like the next day, and I'd sign them all as well. So yeah, I mean, I've never not signed anything for anyone, whoever. I get pissed off when I see some of the footballers, the way they walk out the grounds, as though they're really doing you this massive favor, like not even looking at you, it's like looking away, a little quick flick of the pen, and I just look and I think, that's arrogant. That's really arrogant. I've never, and I'd never even think of doing that. I've always done everything. I still get stuff comes in from America. Could you sign this for us and send it back, please? And I do, yeah. I mean, these are the people that have supported me, and I don't, I guess that's why the Sun have never had any digs at me or things like that. Because when I was on my way up, they wanted to do stories and stuff, and when I was up there and stuff, I still carried on doing it. And there was one guy, Dave Hogan, he was the photographer, and I got on really well with him. He didn't take the piss or anything. And he said, "I know you're having a baby." He said, could I have the first photo?" I said, "Yeah, you can, Dave. Yeah, I'll call you and stuff." And he came round and he took the first photos. So I wasn't this, "Oh, leave me alone now," all that sort of stuff, because I'm not like that. If someone's helped you doing something, I just think it's irresponsible, but more ignorant to sort of just be like some people. And a lot of people that do well, they do become ignorant, and I got no time for that. I really haven't. And yet it's funny because the higher the people, you know, the less they are like that. Like Phil Lynott, I spent quite a while with, who's one of my heroes from school days, Thin Lizzy, and I get to produce him, and I'm like, oh no, 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 I don't want to do that. How can I go and tell him what to do? you know. Um, but then I was forgetting that, I was number one at the time, and I'd just become innovative, and he wanted to try out, me on some of the things, and it worked. And then I met David Gilmour in the south of France, and he looked over. I looked at him and I thought, Jesus Christ, that's David Gilmour. And he nodded, and I turned round, like, who's he nodding at? And there was no one behind me, and it was me. So I thought, I better go and say hello then. I said, "Hi, Dave. Really nice to meet you." He said, "Oh, Paul, you know my name?" Eh, I'm just like that, It was, and then I went running down the promenade to tell my old woman that I had just met David Gilmour and he'd invited me to the Pink Floyd concert and all that. And I sounded like a little school kid. Hey, I think it's great to keep your heroes. I'm here. I'm a hero to lots of people, and I'm only normal, and they're only normal. But it's a strange thing when, as I say, someone like Phil Lynott, I knew I had every Thin Lizzy album, and then I'm supposed to tell this guy what to do. But I did, and the record come out great because, you know, we was going to get a motorbike on this track, and we walked across the road, and we got lent the motorbike. The guy was taking the mick out of Phil a little bit, saying like, he says, "Oh, I know who you are, Paul." He said, "Who's your mate?" And he knew his mate. And in the end, I remember Phil went, "All right, you're not fucking impressed who I am. All right, can we borrow the fucking bike or not?" And the bloke went, "Yeah." And we got it in there. And all I needed Phil to do was just rev it up once. And then, how can I explain this to you? But when you rev something, it's just like it's something going faster, isn't it? It's like that sort of thing. Well, if you just take one of those, like if you've got peas and you're throwing them around, if you just take one pea and put that in time in the emulator. So I just had one of the sounds of a rev in there, and I could play it in time. So it went bum 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 dum dum bum bum bum, and it's like fucking great because otherwise you'd have never got it in time. And so I came up with that idea and some other bits and pieces and stuff towards the end, and I managed to. Oh, he went out to the toilet. The first thing I was doing, I went straight for that bass, the one with the mirror on it, and I could play the bass a little bit. I'm not a very good bass player, but I could slap it a little bit. And I just put something down, and he came back, and I thought, oh shit, I hope he doesn't think I'm taking the mick. I said, "Oh, Phil, I just had a quick go on your bass. Hope you don't mind." "No, that's all right." I said, "Coming up is just a few bars of something." I said, "Obviously, we know we'll wipe it off." And he went, "No, we're fucking leaving that on there. No, no, no." So yeah, it was just me being very shy and all the rest of it. And yeah, but that's some of the great things that happen when you sort of succeed in the music business. Sometimes I still pinch myself and go, wow, if I'd have listened to everyone and not put 19 out, would I have got anywhere near? I think I would have done okay because of Rainforest, and I would have been in that genre and stuff. But I don't think I'd have had the wide appeal to be able to sort of like get Sir Laurence Olivier on a record, or Bob Hoskins and them sort of people, and be asked to produce everyone like Barry White, Ian Jury, all these different people. I don't think that would have happened. No, just if I'd have just done Rainforest, no, that wouldn't have happened. But do you know what? I would have been happy still, I guess, with like the Rainforest side of things, because I would have stayed in that era, in that genre. And I sold a lot of records. Rainforest did nearly 600,000 12-inch in America, and I never guessed it would do that. It was only for a body. It was a piece of music for a body popping video. But you know all this. You've read the book.
I sure have. I have indeed. Good you mentioned Phil there, because Phil was my next topic to mention. What was it like? You mentioned there you still get pinch me moments. What was it like to idolize people growing up, being a music fan and music lover, to then work with them?
Crazy, absolutely crazy. I don't know. Did we put the jukebox in the book, in the pictures? I don't know if we did. Did we? He gave me a juke. Let me show. Hold on. Let's see if I can get enough light here. He gave me a jukebox for my wedding present. See if I've got a torch here. If you look, it's got a pair of shoes on it at the moment, I'm afraid, and a bin in the front. Can you see?
I
Can you
can.
see that?
Yeah, I can.
That was my wedding present. Look, there he is. There's
The
the guy.
picture above. Yep.
And I should take these bloody things off of here. What am I doing? Terrible disgrace. And look, there's the original card that he wrote, and it says, "Sorry to have taken so much of your time, Phil Lynott." So that's the sort of guy that he was. But yeah, that was my wedding present from him. So there you go. There's a little crazy one.
Fantastic. What was it like to work with these guys and, like I say, these people that you've sort of looked at and looked up to, when you're growing up, like I say, music fan, and you then get the chance to.
Most of them were fine. I mean, um, there was one, when I was remixing stuff, some of it, I would like to do it on my own because I just felt I could work better on my own, um, without having someone looking over me. And that, I think it was Frankie Beverly out of Maze. He wanted to be there. There was no two questions. And I just said, I don't want to do it because I would have just been almost thinking, oh, am I doing it right? Does he like this? But, if Barry White sort of said to me, look, you get on with it, we've asked you to do it, blah, blah, blah. Um, I remember him saying, um, I said to him, I said, well, Barry, I said, you just always keep the groove going, don't you? He said, make sure you keep the groove going, Paul. Keep the groove going. So, yeah, great. I mean, when Ian Jury came down, when I was remixing four of his tracks: "Hit Me with Rhythm Stick," "Wake Up, Make Love to Me," "Reasons to Be Cheerful," and there's another one, I can't remember the name of it. But he came down and he was like, "Wow!" He said, "I love this." I said, "So you're not going to hit me with your rhythm stick then?" Very bad joke, but he laughed. And no, it was great to sort of see people that you've done some work for, and they enjoyed it. I didn't really have anyone that said they didn't like what I did. I mean, I took risks. I mean, the first one I ever did was Third World, and blimey, I was asked to do this Third World track, and I was like, but you've had people from America sort of do it, like Francois Kevorkian and all these, famous sort of remixes and stuff. And they was like, well, yeah, they've we want something a bit more radical. They just add percussion and all that sort of stuff to it and stuff. And I thought, right, okay. I said, get me the 24, get me a copy of the 24-inch master. Because I had it in my head what I was going to do. I was just going to wipe it. And I wiped it apart from the vocals and the hi-hat track so that I could keep in time. And then I had to play like the Linn drum back in time with it and all that sort of stuff. So everything was gone. And it was time for me to take it in. And I took it in and I was thinking, they're either going to think I'm crazy and what have I done? Because I just changed. It wasn't the same record. And, or they might go, well, actually, it's not bad. They loved it. They all started dancing around the office. They loved it. I was like, but I mean, I would have just said, well, look, you told me you wanted something radical. Well, how fucking radical is wiping a tape? But that's why I said to him, get me a copy of the 24-inch master. And we just wiped it all apart from the vocals and the hi-hat so that I had something to keep in time with. And that was it. So that was the start of doing something different. Yeah, all history now, but enjoyable sort of, doing them sort of things.
Was there any added pressure when you're working with the likes of Phil or Barry White and these big names?
Phil was the one that people said could be a bit sort of, I don't know, a bit something. And he was nothing like that compared to me. Not compared to me, but with me. I got in so well. We used to chat about stuff, and I used to say to him, "So how many gold albums have you got through, and all that sort of stuff?" And I said to him, "You're a bit of a funker, anyway." I said, "Johnny the Fox, it's like a funk record. I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know that track, but it's a real sort of funky sort of groove." I said, "You're a bit of a funker at heart, aren't you?" And when we did our record together, um, he did like a bit of a rap on the end of it, and it was called 19, believe it or not. But it was more about like gangs of young guys in America, that sort of thing. I'm hard, I'm bad, blah blah blah. And at the end of it, like you're fading it out a little bit. And I said to him, I said, "Well, you better do a no, 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 shouldn't you feel really?" Because it was cool, and he does, and he goes, "Yeah, no, 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 19, dun, dun." Great moment, great moment. And then I saw Bono do it as well at a gig. Um, well, someone showed me the video, and it was quite good because we got paid quite well for it. I was thinking, I wish you'd do that all the time, Bono. Oh dear, there you go.
I'm going to move on to something that we share in common, a love that we both have. Well,
Chelsea.
absolutely. Or a love-hate relationship as it goes lately. Chelsea Football Club, obviously, you grew up a Chelsea fan, football fan. Not a bad little player when you was younger, by all accounts, so I hear. Um,
A bad what? Sorry.
not a bad little player when you was younger.
I wasn't too bad. I mean, I was a goal hanger. I mean, I had a really really accurate left foot. That was my sort of thing. Really, I really could sort of put a ball somewhere. I mean, I never used to sort of track back. I was a goal hanger, but then someone would give me the ball and it would go in the net. So they knew my thing. No, I wasn't bad. I grew up with Tony Gale. He lived just down the road from me. Brian Paddy Grealish. He was the captain of Ireland, and I think Brighton as well. Who else? There was someone else. I mean, I was in the same class as Phil Daniels, the actor. We used to come home together on the train. He lived at King's Cross, and I carried on to Old Street. Um, yeah, I mean Chelsea. Well, I was born in Pimlico, so it used to take us about 15, 20 minutes to walk to the bridge. Um, and that was it. I was a Chelsea supporter, and you know, I remember watching that 1970 FA Cup, and I was like, "Oh my God Almighty!" You know, Leeds were so great then, and how we won it, I don't know, but it was a great time, and I still support them. I started doing the music for Chelsea TV, so I used to get free. I had a free like pass, so I could go in the players' bar and met Zola and all them sort of guys, and you know, Dan Petrescu. I saw him on holiday, and it was great, just sort of meeting your heroes really, and I liked doing it. And I didn't charge him for doing the music because we didn't have the money to for it then. It was like Ken Bates was bailing us out all the time until Roman came along. But I enjoyed it. I used to watch the match from the gantry place where they did all the replays and all that sort of stuff, and it was great. It was a really good experience, and being on the TV there quite a lot and stuff was. I sort of got into doing a bit of punditry as well. Like there was one thing where it was a penalty, and I remember they couldn't make up their minds, and I took it home and I slowed it down even more than they could in the studio, and you could see that it actually was a penalty. It was like half a frame in it or something. And I just went on the telly. I said that. I said, look, I'll prove that it was a penalty. And it was like, oh, bloody hell, that was good. And then I did videos for Zola and for Gus Poyet. Um, they look a bit naff now. They look very old hat now. But it was when I first started mucking about with computers. And as they shot the ball, the ball would sort of like be glowing. And as it hit the back of the net, then you'd get like a lightning sort of strike, and I'd get a lightning sound. It'd be and it was great for the time. At the time, everyone was going, bloody hell. Um, and even Sky nicked one of my bloody things. It was that I found out how you could change just their kit. And it was a thing called leave color. And it would just leave that one color and everything else would go black and white. Simple to do now with AI and stuff like that. But at the time, even the people there, they went, how the bloody hell did you do that? And I couldn't remember, first of all. And then I found it again. And then I noticed Sky had bloody done it. And I thought, you've either got the same program as me or you've watched this, because they used to come to Chelsea a lot, obviously, and see the bits and pieces and stuff. And they must have thought that's a good idea, because you could change their football kit as they're running along. It was simple. It would just change, just leave one colour that you left in there: gold, purple, blue, green. Yeah, good time at Chelsea.
So it sounds to me, Paul, like you were the original VAR when you slowed it down and found the penalty.
Uh, on that one occasion, I think I did really prove it beyond any doubt. I really did split the thing up. I slowed it down and then I recorded it slowed down. Then I recorded it from slowed down, again slowed down, and it was just going like click, 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 and I'd stop, and I stopped it on one bit, and you just see it was Viali. He just basically puts his toe, and you see the ball just move slightly a different direction, and then he gets taken out. And even the people at the Chelsea, they said, "Bloody hell!" They said, "You've done really well on that. Well done." So yeah, like you say, I get into something and I do go the whole hog. Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, growing up a Chelsea fan, you obviously made it and you made a name for yourself in your music career. And then after you Rainforest in 19, it must be what, 10, 15 years later, you start working at Chelsea. Did you ever think anything like that would happen where you could combine your two loves?
Um, no, no, I didn't. No, I don't know what made me do it, but they had this program on called Blue Tomorrow, and they seemed to be using the same piece of music and all that. Program was just looking a bit tired, and I got in contact with. It said producer Gina Repton and Dave Utah, so I got in contact with them. I said, "Do you guys like need any more music and stuff?" Because the budget was tight at the time, and uh, they said, "Well, yeah. How can you get it for us?" I said, "Well, I'm in the music business myself," and they said, "Oh, who are you?" I said, "My name's Paul Hardcastle." Really? I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." They said, "Why don't you come over?" So I went over there with my son Paul and got on really well with them. And I just said, "Look, I've got a library, shitload of stuff." I said, "Whatever you want to use, you can use it. Um, and if we can come up here on a Saturday," and it was great watching it from there. It really was because you're seeing it live, but you could look back at the replays and all the rest of it and stuff. And yeah, it was about 3 or 4 years I did that for, and it was great. It was really good, and once again, a great experience. And then I went on to play in the thing called the Soccer Six, which for me was brilliant. I mean, scoring 3 goals at Chelsea with Ron Chopper Harris in my team was just madness. When scored the first goal, I thought I had the ball and there was a lot of people around me. I thought, I've got to hit it. I've got to hit it. And I hit it and I hit it really well. Whack straight in the corner. Look, I can't show off too much because it was only Chris Eubank in goal because it was like all people in things. But he wasn't a bad goalie. He could dive around and stuff, and he had all this gear and stuff. And then I got to play at Liverpool, and sort of along the lines of with Ian Rush and Kenny Dalglish and all these sort of people. Another buzz that was. I met George Best at Chelsea and got him to sign my shirt. Yeah, just loads of great memories of that. So, unfortunately, because of my motorbike accident, that's what stopped me playing. And I was gutted when they said to me, "You can't play anymore." You're going to end up really doing your knee because they'd removed what's called your meniscus, and that's the thing in between your your bottom bone and your top bone, your thigh and your lower bone, and so that had all been sort of messed up. So I couldn't play football anymore, and that was something that on the way back I was not in tears, but I was just feeling like, my God. And then I thought, so what must some poor sod that this is his career feel? He's just been told he can't play anymore. He's like 20 years old. My career wasn't, I didn't need to run. Only from the booing fans and throwing eggs at me, you know. But no, he just said, if you keep playing, you're going to really do your knee in big time. Um, it's like Osgood. I was asking Osgood if he would play as well, and he wouldn't even touch a ball. He wouldn't even pass it to you because his knees were so bad. So, but Chopper, yeah, no, and then he strained he strained a ligament or something, and he sort of he lasted 3 games. We got knocked out after that anyway, but we got through a couple. It was just a day. I've still got it all on. I've still got it on. It's on my computer now, like the goals at Chelsea and Liverpool and stuff like that. Yeah, very good. They're very what's the word? Competitive though, the old footballers. I mean, I got God blimey, a guy called Graham Sharp that used to play for Everton. Big guy, and sort of like, we've both gone up for this ball, and he's just like elbowed me straight on the nose. And I went, fucking hell, all right, mate, Jesus, it's for charity. And, oh, he knew. He went, oh, sorry, Paul, I don't mean it. And there was another guy when we was playing at Aston Villa, Brendan Ormsby. He nearly broke. That was one of the things that I think helped my leg carry on its downfall, because he clattered into me, and you can see me just go so far up in the air, because I had nicked a goal just before that, and he must have thought, you ain't doing that again, because they take it so seriously, these footballers. They don't want to be outdone by a load of bloody musicians and people in the music business. Well, yeah, there you go.
You mentioned Ron Chopper Harris. Just for those who don't know, he was the Chelsea captain back in the 70s. And we mentioned the 1970 FA Cup final where we beat Leeds in the replay.
Yep.
And obviously, Chopper Harris was around those days. And like I say, would have been captain around that sort of time. Obviously, we mentioned about you working with Phil Lynott and from Finn Lizzy, somebody that you admired in the music business growing up. What was it like? Was it the same sort of buzz when you played alongside Ron Chopper Harris?
100%, 100%. I'd watched him when I was a kid, and yeah, what it was an honour, really, to sort of say, yeah, I've got Harris in my team, and I did get to play with some good players at Newcastle. I played with Beardsley. Blimey, at Liverpool, Dalglish, John Barnes. God, loads, just people that you can reel off that you'd think, oh, he played for, and it still seems like, going back on it now, I've forgotten about it all, but I look, and I've got a few medals and a cup. We won the Carling Five-a-Side Cup, which was a charity thing at Crystal Palace, and I've got this big huge cup which we won, because I actually scored the most goals, and that was easy because it was only like on, like in a gym type of thing, but a big hall, but that sort of thing, and not grass and stuff like that. So it was easy for me then, because I didn't have to run through boggy grass and stuff. It was just, give me the ball there, whack, it was in. It was good. But to win it, and I got the winner of the most goals, so I got the man of the tournament as well. That's all on film. When I do the old thingy book, if we ever get to do a audio book or something, I'll have to have it where there's links in there and stuff to sort of different things. That would be great. That would be really good. I'd be really interested in doing that side of things. It could become really good.
Definitely. I want to go sort of almost full circle and go right back because we've mentioned a few, turning points and big moments for your career, but I want to go back to where it all started for a moment. And
Direct drive.
well, I want to talk about Liverpool and the tours around
Oh, okay,
Europe,
yeah, yeah, okay,
because it's not your usual childhood, it's not your usual upbringing where you went on tour. I think mainly around Germany, all over Europe and countries,
yeah.
and you would perform each night with your father. Just talk to me about those times and what they were like for you.
Um, I don't know if I liked them or not, to be honest with you. I don't think applause registered in my head at all, really. It didn't mean hardly anything. I mean, I would get a lot of applause because I was so young, and I could play the drums a bit, and the guitar a bit, and sing a little bit, and do a little dance bit, because my dad was a really good tap dancer. Um, and yeah, I mean, after a while, I didn't like it, because I just felt that I'd rather go out and, um, uh, play with the kids in the street. That's what I sort of wanted to do, really. And my dad was a bit upset about it all. But then afterwards, excuse me, I remember him saying to my brother-in-law, he sort of said, "Do you know what?" He said, I think it's good that he didn't do it." He said, "Because look at someone like Michael Jackson." And, that's a good point. You're not round, you don't stay one place for long. The longest I stayed somewhere, I think, was Cardiff for a couple of years. And I came back with a bit of a Welsh accent and my years. um, yeah, you don't sort of stay in one place. But saying that, I saw things that people read about. I was there when the Berlin Wall was sort of like, up and stuff like that. And so I saw all that sort of stuff, rather than reading about it in books. And that's what my dad said. But
I mean, we had a tutor. I had a tutor. He'd get me a tutor in here and there, but they sort of said it was wrong or whatever. And at one stage, I think he was thinking of maybe moving, um, but then he thought, no, it's just let me get on with whatever. And look, at the end of the day, he saw me sort of do well, and that I suppose is his sort of what's the word? There must be a word for it, but he had championed me and sort of saw it sort of all come to fruition, as it were, type of thing. That was the real good part for him, I suppose.
Definitely. Although you was at a very young age, and obviously, like you say, you just wanted to be a kid, you wanted to enjoy your childhood. Did you ever feel like you was just a novelty rather than a musician or performer or entertainer?
Yeah, I most probably was. Um, I think, well, I suppose you're a novelty if you can do something at a young age, aren't you? I mean, I did have really good rhythm from the age of sort of 5 or 6, and I could play the drums pretty well. Um, there's a few pictures that are floating around, and there's the house band there, and the guy's sort of looking at me, who's the drummer, and he's sort of like in quite amazement. Now, you look on YouTube and stuff, and what you don't see on there is just like oh God, people of 6 that are better than someone of 46. They're real gone into it. But no, at that time, I don't think there was many people that did that. So, but I didn't feel bad about anything. I mean, once the show was sort of finished and stuff, I'd always have people coming up to me and saying, "That was really great what we did," and would you like a Coca-Cola or something like that? And so, yeah, I mean, that was okay. It was all right. I mean, I think it gave me a bit of a start, but then I stopped it all, and I'd never played a keyboard or anything like that, excuse me, in my life. So, um, I uh, I remember going down to Macari's in Charing Cross Road, which is a music shop down there, and there was a thing called a Korg 700S, and uh, the guy out of Hawkwind, Simon House, his name was, he had one, and I was a big Hawkwind fan. And I found out that there's a button. It's called a traveller, and if you held a key down and you pushed this traveller across, it made that wind sound like. And on a Saturday, I'd say to my mates, "Come, let's go down to so and so." I said, "We'll have a look round," and I'd say, "Right, guys, check this out." I'd put my finger on it, and I'd go, "Whoosh," and then I'll go, "Bloody hell, that sounds like the start of Silver machine." And so, yeah, that was how I sort of got back into it a little bit. And then after the motorbike accident, I swapped my video camera for friend's synthesizer, and he happened to have that same one, a Korg 700S. And so I just started tinkering around with it, just hitting some notes, trying to play along to a few records and stuff. And it sort of started from there. And then I fudged my way into direct drive, and how I got in that I'll never know. Well, I do know actually. I'm lying. When I went to meet the guys, there was a guy in there that you could tell he was basically been taught properly and all the rest of it, and he's sort of playing them some stuff that he's and I thought I'm out of here. I really was going to go, you know, and then it just so happens that one of them come out. He said, "Oh, hello, you're Paul." "Oh, yeah, yeah," and he started talking to me, and that was then he kept me there, sort of thing. And then I went in there, and I just had this tape with me of some ideas that I'd been doing. And this was before multi-track cassette players and all that. And so I used to have two cassette decks. And the worst thing was that the Korg 700S, you could only play one note on it. I couldn't even play a chord. So I had to play like, a C, then I'd have to play an E flat whilst recording it back to the other one, then again to the other one to just get one C minor out of it. And by that time, it was like, but you could still hear little bits and pieces coming through. And they just said to me, here's the killer, which they never let me forget. They said, "So did you write did you write them tracks yourself? I said, no, I just made them up. Because I thought they meant, did you sit there with a bloody score paper and, all that? And they just sat there and pissed themselves laughing. And my mate, Pete, the drummer, who I still see quite a bit, he never lets me forget that. He never lets me forget that. He said, oh, did you make that new track that you got? I like that one. He said, did you just make that one up or did you write it yourself? There you go. That was it.
Brilliant. Paul, I'll get you for a long enough. One last question from me.
Okay, mate. Sure. Of course.
Is there anyone in music today who you would love?
David Gilmour. Beat you to it.
David Gilmour.
David Gilmour, yeah. I'd love to. I mean, listen, I would love to for him to just play a note on my one of my tracks or something. Maybe I'll really try and do it maybe next year or something, just see if I can come up with something and just say, Dave, you can have the publishing or put it towards you, because he's into a lot of charity things. I would just say to him, you can have the whole track. I don't give a shit. Just play a solo on it for me or something. I'd love that. I really would love that. But whether he's got the time and stuff like that, I don't know. As I say, I've met him before. I wish I'd have bloody gone for it then. You've met someone 3 times on the trot. They've invited you to the after show party, and I went to the very last gig at Earl's Court, and I should have really pushed it more, but that's just not me. I should have gone, here, Dave, would you play on something? I wouldn't dare say it. But, I'm sure there would be someone that maybe could arrange that. And if I said to him, look, you have the writing on the song, I don't care about it, and you just put it to one of your charities or something, or, I would do that. I'd do that in a heartbeat, really. Yeah, he's the only person I think that I look up to. I mean, there's a guy called Steve Vai. Do you know Steve Vai?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Oh dear, but it's hard to explain. Look him up, right? There's a track called "For the Love of God." Look him up on YouTube. It's VAI, and if you want to see a technically outrageous guitar player, there's no one that I've seen who can do what this guy does. He is incredible, but he used to practice 12 hours a day, every day, blah, blah, blah. Whereas me, I'll never be like that because I prefer making tracks. And so I don't ever really practice. I can play okay, but I should be a lot better if I'd have practiced. But I can do what I want to do on my own records. That's the main thing for me. And I think I'm, to start practicing now would be a little bit, so yeah, that's it. But yeah, Dave Gilmour, I beat you to it there, didn't I?
You did.
So if anyone's listening that knows Dave and whatever, contact you and you can let me know and you can have a manager's fee.
See, we'll get it sorted out. Paul, it's been a pleasure. I could sit and talk to you for hours, but thank you.
Oh no, listen, I've loved it.